Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Just wanted to say hi. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's safe and having fun and all that good stuff. Um, I did want to talk about. I gave you guys that quiz on Friday, and question one was really kind of like an easy question. It was true or false. My jokes are the best, and there was two of you that said false, and I could only hope that you just didn't understand the question. Of course, if something's a fact, it's true. If something's not a fact, it's false. So obviously, my jokes, well, think about it. After the question, I wrote, you can't use a scratch pad or a calculator for this question. That's funny. It just is. Anyway, much respect to everybody who wrote true, to the people who didn't write true. Again, I'm going to forgive you. I'm just going to go ahead and hope that you just didn't understand the question. Anyway, watch the rest of this video at 6.4, then go over to Edge Elastic. It's like 10 questions on there, and then kind of do the same thing tomorrow. I'm going to have another video for 6.4, some more Edge Elastic. Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to review Chapter 6, and Friday, we're going to have a little test on Chapter 6, and then we'll see what next week brings us. Anyway, hope everyone's doing good, and see y'all soon. Bye.
Hello everyone, this is 6.4 interior and exterior angles. So we're talking about triangles today. So something that we talked about in class was that the sum of the interior angles of every triangle is 180 degrees. So these are the interior angles. So this one, and that one. They all equal 180 degrees. So I can make a quick little equation, and I could say that x plus 48 plus 31 equals 180 degrees. I could solve this equation. So that boils down to x plus, that's 79, equals 180. I subtract 79 from both sides, and I wind up with x is equal to 101 degrees. So when you get your answer to a question like this, make sure that your answer makes sense. So 101 degree angle is an obtuse angle. So if you look here, make sure your x actually is an obtuse angle, which it is, so we're good. Next one. So our equation here, again, these three angles together are 180, so I can just say P plus 35 plus 57 equals 180. So combine like terms here, that becomes P plus 92 equals 180. I then subtract that 92 from both sides and wind up with P is equal to 88, which is an acute angle. And that P is close to a right angle, but it is acute, so we're good. Now notice that this triangle here has these two little marks on there, and that means that those two sides are the same length. Therefore, this is an isosceles triangle. So an isosceles triangle has two sides of the same size. So now, if these two angles are the same, that means these two angles are also the same. So since this is x, we can also call this x. So our equation for this one could be 40 plus 2x, x and x, equals 180. We subtract out 40 from both sides. Those cancel out. I'm left with 2x is equal to 140. Divide both sides by 2. And then, of course, x is equal to 70 degrees. All right, and that makes sense. That looks like a 70-degree angle. So we're good. Moving along. And notice that these little marks are there again. Therefore, sides are the same. Therefore, these angles are the same. And yes, you can see that they're both 55. So I know that 55 plus 55 is 110, plus this x has to equal 180. I subtract that 110 from both sides. I wind up with x is equal to 70 degrees. That's fishy. 270-degree right around? Strange. Anyway, so there you go. There's your answer. Next one. This one's a little different. As you can see, the x is on the outside over here. So it's not one of the interior angles. So this right here, this x is considered to be is an exterior angle. So an exterior angle. Now every triangle has 6 exterior angles. If you look in your book here, see 1, 2, and 3, these are my interior angles. But if you just extend each one of the sides of the triangle, you now have 4, 5, and 6, which are exterior angles. And then if you just extend them the other way, you have angles 7, 8, and 9. So every triangle has 3 interior angles and actually has 6 exterior angles. So there's a couple ways we can do this. So we'll do it the long way first. The long way is just to say that, well, if this is x, we don't know what this is, but let's just call it n, right? So obviously n is different size than x. So I could find out what this n is just by doing, I could say 50 plus 60 plus n equals 180, because those are the 3 interior angles of the triangle. So this is 110 plus n equals 180. Subtract 110 from both sides, so n is equal to 70. All right. So now, hopefully you guys can recognize that this angle n, which we now know is 70 degrees, this angle n, right here, plus that angle x, they both together, they have to equal 180 degrees because they're on a straight line. So if I know that this is 70, well, my next equation could be 70 plus x equals 180. Subtract 70 from both sides, I wind up with x is equal to 110 degrees. So that's the answer to the question. X equals 110 degrees. So that's the long way. The short way is just to recognize that when I added these two angles together, the 50-degree angle plus the 60-degree angle, my answer was 110, which, by the way, is the answer to the question. Right? So what we have to recognize here is that, so this is an exterior angle. I'm going to erase this. All right, so this is an exterior angle. This is considered adjacent. Let's do this. That's right, like this. This is considered to be an adjacent angle. I remember we talked about adjacent angles. They share a side, they share a vertex. All right. Now these two angles over here, this 50 and 60 degree angle, they're what's called opposite interior angles. So this is an opposite interior, and so is this. So notice that these two opposite interior angles are equal to the sum of this exterior angle. So every exterior angle, is equal to the sum of its opposite interior angles. So to get just, if you saw this question, hopefully we could get that, and we see this question next time, we just say, okay, well, let's just not look at the angle that's adjacent to it. Let's look at the opposite interior angles, add them together. That gives us this. All right. So we can make this a little equation too. Another way to look at it is just, let's erase all. We don't have to erase it. We'll call this angle A. Let's use a marker. We'll call this angle A. We'll call this angle B. This we'll call C, and this we'll call D. So hopefully you guys recognize that A plus B plus C, A plus B plus C equals 180 degrees. And then hopefully you recognize that C plus D also equals 180 degrees, right? So C plus D equals 180 degrees. So since this and that both equal 180, I could write this. I can write A plus B plus C is equal to C plus D. All right, since this side equals 180 and this side equals 180, then we could say they're equal to one another. And I could always, since these, I could cancel these C's out. So I'm left with A plus B is equal to D. So A plus B, opposite interior, is equal to D, the exterior. Okay, let's try another one. So this one, so again, these two, this is the exterior angle, this is an exterior angle. So these two angles would be considered its opposite interior angles. That means the sum of these two is equal to this. So my equation could be x plus 62 is equal to 132. So solve this, subtract 62 from both sides. These cancel out. I'm left with x is equal to 70. There's another question where the answer is 70. Now, so x equals 70. Now, another way I could have done this, again, that's a short way to do it. Another way to do it is I could do it the long way. I could say, well, let's call this angle right here, let's call this n, right? And hopefully you recognize that n and this 132 degree angle, so this whole thing right here has to equal 180 degrees. So I could say n plus 132 equals 180. I subtract that 132 from both sides. I wind up with 48. So n is equal to 48 degrees. So if I know that this angle right here is equal to 48 degrees, I could then find the value of x just by saying, well, 48 plus 62 plus x equals 180. 48 and 62 is 110, plus x equals 180, and then of course I subtract 110 from both sides. I wind up with x equals 70. So that's the long way to do it, but it works. So this one. So here we go. So we're looking for angles 1 and angle 2. So a couple different ways. Well, we can start with 1 if we want. Hopefully we can recognize that that these two angles together, this 120 degree angle plus angle 1 have to equal 180. So we can call, I like to use letters here instead. So let's call angle 1 n degrees, right? So n plus 120 equals 180. I subtract that 120 from both sides. I wind up with n is equal to 60. So that means this angle right here is equal to 60 degrees. All right, so this equals 60 degrees. Okay, now, the other thing we know, and again, you might already have the answer, but what we could do as well is we could call this, let's just say we call this angle right here, let's call this x, right? And since this is x over here, that means this also is x, because again, we have these two marks here. So that means these two sides are the same, that means these two angles are the same. So we could say that 2x plus 120 has to equal 180, because those are three interior angles. So if I subtract the 120 from both sides, those cancel out. I'm left with 2x is equal to 60. Divide both sides by 2. So x would have to be equal to 30 degrees. So this one is 30. All right? A couple more. So for this one, Again, a couple of ways we can do it, but what I want you guys to recognize is, it's for a moment, let's pretend that that line isn't there. Just pretend none of it's there. Just there's this angle, right? So, and this is considered an exterior angle, right? So remember, this exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two opposite interior angles. So that means this exterior angle is equal to 45 plus 30, which is 75. So that means this whole angle right here is equal to 75 degrees. All right. Now, let's go back to what it originally was. So remember, that whole angle is equal to 75 degrees. Well, if that's the case, well, I know this part of it is 55 degrees. How would I find out that other part y there? If I know the whole thing is 75 degrees, I just do 75. I just do 75 minus 55, which gives me 20. That means y has to be equal to 20 degrees. For this one, we can do the same thing. We know that this angle, this full angle right here, that's considered an exterior angle. Again, just forget this 35 and this x and just imagine this line isn't here. That full angle right there, that whole angle has to be equal to the sum of these two opposite interior angles. So 70 plus 41 is going to be 111. So I know that this angle right here, together, these two, equal 111 degrees. So I know part of it, so together this whole thing is 111 degrees. Write the marker instead. So these two are 111 degrees. So I know this part of it is 35. I find this x, this unknown part, just by doing 111 minus 35. And that's going to give me 75, 76. So it was 76 degrees. All right, so 76 and 35, yeah, 111, yeah. Perfect. So for this last one, we can recognize that. So by the way, it's this line right here, this EF here, is parallel to HI, right? So, and then of course, then that makes this right here and this right here a transversal. Two different transversals, but so what we can recognize here is that if this is 30 degrees, that means this is also 30 degrees because those angles are vertical angles. And if this is 30, that means this is also 30 degrees because these two angles here, these two angles here, this 30 and that 30, they're alternate interior angles. So if this is 30, since this is an isosceles triangle, and so this got these two little marks here, these two sides are the same, that means these two angles are the same. So if that's the case, we know that 30 plus 30, so that we know that 30 plus 30 plus x have to equal 180. So 30 plus 30 is 60, plus x equals 180. I subtract 60 from both sides. I wind up with x is equal to 120. So there's the value of x. That's it.